Welcome to Healthy Living with Christina Sichangwa, and I am excited to be bringing you yet another episode of Into My Kitchen. Okay, so as you see, this is a marble cake, and I started off by greasing off my pan with some melted butter so I could set it aside, because sometimes, we tend to forget whilst preheating the oven, which is what I forgot. Okay, so I'm trying to shoot overhead, but I only realized way after that I did not position the tripod well enough for you to fully see what I was doing, but I believe you have an idea, right? Because this is a recipe video, I'm going to be using standard measurements, so I'm just going to guide you through them over voiceover, and I suggest you get the measuring cups if you'd like, but even if you feel like you understand your way around the kitchen, that's also perfectly okay, because that's how I usually do it. So that's going to be 2 1/4 cups of flour or purpose flour, whichever you prefer. I usually don't sieve. This was the first time I was sieving, and I honestly noticed that it was way better, so I highly recommend. So like I said, 2 1/4 cups, and then I'm going to be using a full teaspoon of baking powder and then half a teaspoon of baking soda. So you can add another half a teaspoon of salt if you would like. Really, it's up to you. Yeah. After you sieve, just please make sure that you mix everything together so that it's perfectly blended. You can use a whisk, you can use whatever you would prefer to just make sure that it's perfectly mixed, and then you set aside, and then we get into the wet ingredients. So in a separate bowl, you add half a cup of butter and half a cup of vegetable oil, as you can see there. And then what I'm going to do after this is add 1 1/2 cups of brown sugar. So you can use granulated sugar if you have access to it. I currently do not where I live, so you use what you have, and it works perfectly for me. And because it's so grainy, I'll be using a hand stand, or rather a hand mixer. I don't know what I just said, but yeah, a hand mixer. Oh yes, just to help it blend in a little better. But just if you are going to take this route, don't over blend it, because over mixing is also an issue. Once mixed, we're going to use 3 eggs, so that you add one, you mix. As you can see, when you can see that it's blended, you add another, you mix, just like that, just for a few seconds. Like I said, our goal is to not over mix it, but yes, just 3 eggs. Then for the next part, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of vanilla extract, because I love vanilla. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, specifically white vinegar, and then half a cup of milk. Final mix, by that I mean using the hand mixer, and then afterwards we're just going to be stirring by hand as guided. and then we get our dry ingredients and add them to the wet. So we partition it half. We only put in half first, and then a full cup of milk. Stir, like again, not over mixing, just stir till it's consistent. Then the final batch of the dry ingredients in, as you obviously see, and then we can set it aside for the next phase. Next, we're going to partition them in half. For this, I really was just using eye measurement. So if you have a kitchen scale, that's okay for you to use, or at least advise that you do so. But then, like for me, this also worked just perfectly fine. So we're going to partition them in half, set one aside as the vanilla, and then we'll transform this one into the chocolate. So for this part, that's 2/3 of cocoa powder, a teaspoon of oil, and then just stir and set aside. This is the perfect time as you're adding the cocoa is when you could have added like powdered coffee, but I had run out at the time. So again, this still tasted amazing just as is. This was my favorite part, but I have to give a disclaimer. She used like a round tray. I really just wanted to use my square pan. I don't know, I just said tray. So it made like really thin layers, which again I was okay with. Still loved how it turned out. So you're going to need 2 tablespoons, and then you can follow what you see. I think it's the best way I can describe it. So you place like 3 tablespoons of the chocolate, spread it out, and then right on top you place 3 tablespoons of the vanilla, spread it out just like that over and over until your batter is done. At some point when you think the heap is like big and may fall over, you can spread it out within the pan. Like, I don't know how to explain it any better than a visual that you will see. Otherwise, this was my favorite part. It made the cutest pattern and loved it. No, actually, this was my favorite part, and I was so excited that you will see for yourself. So basically, I'm just getting rid of any air bubbles by like hitting gently the pan on the surface, and you get a toothpick and you trace it into the middle. As you can see, really, there's no better way for me to describe it. You can get to, she was advising that, once you dip, you wipe it, but I got very excited at the transformation, as you can see, and just kept going. I really couldn't stop it. It was fun. I didn't even measure the middle properly, but loved it still. It was still extremely pretty, and yeah. Okay, so lastly, this is just an ordinary chocolate bar that I had cut up that I was going to use as some garnish, as you will soon see. Yeah, I loved it. He loved it. I guarantee everybody will love it. I don't know why I served it upside down so you couldn't really see, but still turned out perfect. On this channel, you will see a lot of recipes with ground beef because my husband loves it. So I really wanted to try something quick because this is the weekend. It's my busiest period, but still very filling. So these are some of the ingredients that I'm going to use. And as always, Christina does her own thing. So this is going to be a little different than most recipes that you see. And that's the fun part. You also see the moment I realized those were chicken cubes, not beef cubes, but I still had time to change. So let's get into it. So after a brief boil and the water had drained, I added in some vegetable oil, and then I let it fry till golden brown, or as brown as I liked it. Then I added in the green pepper and red onions. Don't know why they're called red, they're purple, but they're really pretty. I love the color. Yes, this time usually I like to add it literally at the end of my cooking, but the whole idea of this meal is it's barely supposed to be chewy, for lack of a better term. Like, the whole idea of the ground beef is making it more like saucy kind of vibe. So people will add in their mustard, they will add in like Worcestershire sauce, which had run out, and there was nothing at the store. All they had was soy sauce, so that's what I'm going to be using. So yes, as it's frying, that's when I prefer to season, with the spices. I don't even know if you can see them, but yeah, I did show you in the beginning. So you season and then fry, like I said, and you add and then I will be adding tomato. People usually don't, they just put tomato sauce or whatever sauce you would prefer, but I like tomato, so I'm going to do it that way, and then add the sauces, as you will soon see. So for measurements, as you can see, I'm really just using my eyes, but I would suggest about 5 tablespoons of tomato sauce, 3 teaspoons of soy sauce. Although people prefer to add more, you can add more if you like. For me, this was honestly enough. Yeah. So I mashed the beef cubes, and then I added I'd say half a cup of warm water, mixed them together, then poured it into the ground beef so that you can have that saucy, deliciousness that you can see, and loved it. So another thing that I will be adding that people don't usually add is cheese, and I'm only adding 2 slices of cheese because my husband doesn't really like cheese. But for me, I highly recommend adding cheese because it made it even more delicious, right? Yeah. So for the buns, I just put butter I actually use margarine, and then this is how I prefer to toast them. Again, highly recommend. It tastes way better when it has that a smoky taste, like so. So for serving, all I did is add some sliced lettuce, and loved it. Would definitely have it again.